All right, Larry Krueger here at Levi's from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er update as Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch spoke to the media just minutes ago. And there was a lot talked about. First, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California on the Monterey Peninsula. Call my friend Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264. And this video is also brought to you by Mancini's Sleep World, a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. They offer 120-night guarantee and a range of brands and price points. With Mancini's, you get free next-day delivery. I'm loving my Mancini's bed. It is fantastic. Click the link below or go to sleepworld.com. Find a bed that works for you. Whether you shop online or visit in-store, use the code KRUG10, and you'll get 10% off. Again, that's KRUG10 to get 10% off in-store or online at sleepworld.com. All right, let's talk about the presser today. 49ers brass addressing the media. Nick Sorensen is out as defensive coordinator. But Kyle Shanahan said he really likes Nick Sorensen, and they're trying to figure out ways to keep him on the staff. It sounds like they're going to offer him the special teams coordinator job. But at this point, he's out as the defensive coordinator. You say, well, why exactly is he out? I think more than anything, it's just that when they hired him, they thought he was the best choice of the guys that were available to them. You got to remember, the 49ers, when they decided to get rid of Steve Wilkes, that was after the Super Bowl. That was a month from now. And a lot of the best defensive coordinators were picked over at that point. So they went with Sorensen, but Kyle said today that there's currently a lot of better options out there. Now, who are those better options? One could be Robert Saleh. One could be, Jeff Ulbrich. There's definitely a few candidates out there. Lou Anarumo. None of these are named, but Josina Anderson reported earlier today that the 49ers are expected to make Robert Saleh an offer for the defensive coordinator job, but he's up for some head coaching jobs. So if he gets the head coaching job, he probably isn't going to want the Niners defensive coordinator job. So they don't have a guy yet in the fold, but there are a lot of good options out there, and they felt like this was the right move to make. So Sorensen is out as the defensive coordinator. Brian Schneider is out as the special teams coordinator. Sorensen potentially could be the new special teams coordinator. As far as Brandon Staley, he wasn't named as the defensive coordinator, and that makes me think he's not going to be the defensive coordinator. But Kyle Shanahan did said he is a candidate, and they will interview him. He will get an interview. I think they feel like they owe him an interview, but I would say if he was going to be the defensive coordinator, they would have just announced it. I don't think they would wait that long and just make him interview. I think if he was going to be the guy, they're going to give him the interview, but I don't think he's going to get the job. Kyle was talking about the scheme. He says he loves the wide nine, but that they have to be open to and open-minded about being flexible about either switching the scheme altogether or being more multiple or more versatile within the scheme. Kyle said he's open to a new defensive scheme. So if somebody comes in and demands a 3-4, does that mean that the Niners will switch from their 4-3 wide nine to a 3-4? I guess potentially. It sounds like they like their scheme, but they're open-minded to making a change if they feel like a change will help them win games. So that one's a to-be-determined thing. But Kyle did say today he was open to a new defensive scheme. Trent Williams' name came up, and all they said is Trent's doing well. It really sounds like he's going to come back, but no confirmation, no official word on Trent Williams' status. Deebo Samuel, John Lynch said, hey, Deebo's under contract, and it sounds like he's going to return. Nothing guaranteed on that front either, but he said, hey, look, we're not in the business of getting rid of good football players. He said Brock Purdy is their guy at quarterback. He says, we want him here for a long time. So those who are hoping that Brock Purdy somehow is moving down the road, I would think again on that. The new offensive coordinator is Clay Kubiak. He gets that title. Kyle discussed that a little bit today as well. So Kubiak will be the new offensive coordinator. As far as play calling, I can't see Kyle Shanahan giving up play calling for any period of time, though I think it's something that it should be discussed because I think you could throw opposing defenses off your scent from time to time by mixing up the play calling duties throughout the course of a long football season. Just an idea, but that will be interesting. Clay Kubiak today was named the new offensive coordinator. Kyle was asked about Ricky Pearsall. He said he's had an incredible season. I asked Kyle and John about, hey, you guys have been together a few years now, and you haven't fractured as, and you know the way football is. It's a brutal business when you lose. It's like some people argue, John, you didn't give Kyle enough players. Other people will argue that, Kyle, you didn't do enough with the players that John gave you. How do you guys stay together? How do you not fracture through all the pressure that goes along with being, pro football? And, man, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch gave me, an incredibly long answer. Kyle talked about how that's why John's here. That's why he wanted John, because he felt like him and John would stay together. They would stay united, and they wouldn't fracture, and they wouldn't turn on each other, and they wouldn't blame each other. And Kyle talked about how in this profession, there's a lot of people that are just trying to do, whatever they need to do to stay employed. And that he knew John wouldn't do that. And he knows that he's not like that. So they're not the kinds of guys that will just do anything to keep the job. I thought that was a really interesting answer. I'm going to go back and listen to it again. John said the reality of the Niner cap situation is that, there's going to be cap casualties. One guy who is cut right now is Javon Hargrave. The Niners may attempt to re-sign him at a lower rate than $19 million. But Javon Hargrave, they're going to let him test the market and figure out what his market is. If they can afford him, they'd love to have him back. But if there's a very good chance that he finds a better deal somewhere else and moves on. So, the 49ers have a lot of needs on the defensive side of the ball for sure. I would say they need 2 defensive tackles, a defensive end, 2 linebackers, a free safety, 2 corners. I mean, that's just minimum. That's just on defense. So a lot of needs this offseason for sure. That was the gist of the conversation down here in Santa Clara. Definitely a lot of talk about being uncomfortable to be in this position, a lot of resolve to get it right. Josina Anderson reported the Niners are expected to make Robert Saleh an offer. There's another report out saying that Saleh and Jeff Ulbrich are atop the Niners defensive coordinator wish list. One other note, Fred Warner and Kyle Juszczyk today were voted third to the 3rd annual NFL Players Association All-Pro team. Warner at inside backer, obviously, and Juszczyk as the fullback. The other thing, Dre Greenlaw's future was brought up, and a lot of people made, a big deal of the fact that there were some videos out that, Greenlaw's significant other was looked like a going away party, and John just said, hey, look, we know that Dre wants to be here. We know that we want to have him here, and that's all he could really add. He didn't add anything else other than that. But that right there is, a significant announcement that, the Niners understand that Dre Greenlaw is special. They understand. He said, I think they said, hey, we're not in the business of getting rid of really good football players who are also really great people. And that's what Dre Greenlaw represents. So, no official word on Greenlaw, but this idea that he's for sure gone, it didn't sound like that. It sounded more like they understand that he's valuable. They understand that they want him. They understand that, they may not be able to afford him, but they really do value the player for sure. All right, that does it for the update video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Mancini's. Thanks to Sharp Corners. Have a great day. Go Niners.